Hello, welcome to Crypto Simulation Theory. I'm the Gaussian Snake. Today I'm going to talk to you about patterns and price predictions. For people who are feeling a little bit left behind in the altcoin market, or maybe their altcoin isn't doing so well despite Bitcoin going up, I'm going to show you why you may not need to worry so much. Now, of course, this is not financial advice, and this is just my perspective. It may not be the right way for you to trade. It's not really a trading recommendation anyways, so much as just patterns to look for in charts that seem to repeat themselves over and over again in all kinds of different charts. And this will help you understand why sometimes you're going to feel like you're getting shaken out when in fact it might be something else going on underneath the hood. So let's go ahead and get started. I wanted to pull up a chart for Pepe to start with over here. Okay, so this is Pepe, crypto market cap. Something else I'm also going to show you in this video, I just wanted to mention, is also how to do price predictions. I've gotten asked that on my channel, and I mean, really, there's no true way to do that, but I'll show you what I use. So the power of fibs is going to be one major theme. I'm going to draw some fibs from Pepe's previous all-time high over here in May of 2023 to its low, which we'll just say was right here in September of 2023. And I want you to observe something about what Pepe did. We can't pull up a VRVP on this, but we certainly can draw fibs and analyze the fibs. This analysis will be very helpful. So what you'll notice is that Pepe on its first run had a dump to the 236 fib. This 236 fib is a key area to watch for where altcoins are at right now, and you'll kind of see why as we go through several different charts, why this is such an important level to look at. And then the 618 is another really important level. On this chart, it's the 0.5. Sometimes it'll be the 0.5, sometimes it'll be the 618. But basically, the chart goes down and comes up to the 0.5 fib and then goes down beneath the 236. And you often see this during a bottoming process. So Pepe put in a nice double bottom in October of, and this is all last year, not this year. And then it went all the way up to the 0.5 fib and came back down again. And this is the shakeout part right here. This happened in late 2023, and it started in December. And then it was just like people felt hopeless for like nearly a month until Pepe hit the 236 fib. That's a magical level. And what this actually does is it's creating a macro higher low and actually an inverse head and shoulders. If you look at this being the shoulder, this the head, this the shoulder. But more so, it creates a macro higher low. It retests this structure. It held as support. Then we got a week of up. We got to the 382 fib. And I want to show you how little time you have in a mania run. Like literally you had a week before things started to settle down, right? And then there was another up leg that took you to the 1.618. But then once that happened, that was May of 2024. We had to wait all the way till November to get up just one fib higher, right? And we see the similar kind of thing happening here. You come down, form your lows. This is underneath the 1.272, and then come back and retest. Like this structure, doesn't it look like this structure? So similar, right? And Pepe is doing like a less volatile version of what it did over here. And it's not just Pepe that this happens with. I'm going to show you several charts, and then we can go look at some altcoins that maybe haven't blasted off yet, which there are plenty of, and get an idea of when they might do that. And so I'm not really picking on any altcoins in particular. I will call up an altcoin that I do hold very dearly, Fofar, because I'm so familiar with that chart, but this is not meant to really sell you on any particular altcoins, just to show you what happens in these charts. And then we can talk about price predictions after that. Okay, this is Dogecoin on the weekly as well. I already have fibs drawn. And I actually drew out this bull pattern, but I don't want you to focus on the bull. I want you to focus on some key things here. So Dogecoin in May of 2021 found its major market cycle top. Okay, and then it pretty much bled straight down beneath the 236 fib. And it did come up, but this was more of a fake out. It formed kind of, a really strong bottoming process all the way to March 2024, and then shot up to the 0.5 fib only to get rejected and test what? What did it test? The 236 fib, and that was its launching point. So here's your final shakeout. And this shakeout lasted for a long time, for months, until boom, we head up now to the 786 fib, which is a real big accomplishment for Dogecoin. So there's another example of go below the 236, come back up for air, have a final shakeout, and then blast off in a very mania-like way. And Dogecoin's an older asset, so to see that kind of volatile behavior on an older coin is pretty Okay, you know that the older coins have been running lately. This is Cardano. And Cardano put in its top around August, September of 2021, and then went all the way down beneath the 236 fib and pretty much lived under there for the better part of over a year. And then it came up to test the point 0.5 fib, and guess what happened? Rejection, come back down. There's your final shakeout, higher low, and boom, off we go to the 618. Okay, this is Avalanche or AVAX, put in its all-time high in November, and then came down all the way here to September 2023, major market cycle bottom, boom, all the way to the 618, head and shoulders, and down to where, folks? The 236 fib, macro higher low, and then boom, off we go. Okay, like we're kind of in that process now. I mean, it hasn't really had a mania move quite yet, but it looks like it's, I mean, this is a really great setup for one. So here's another one, Stellar Lumens, which surprised the hell out of me. I didn't see this one coming. But basically, you had your all-time high in May of 2021, major low in, uh, we'll say around December 2022. Got all the way up to the 382 fib, straddled the 236. See, but the 382 was the rejection, straddled the 236 and came back down. Now, this one actually came pretty close to these lows here. So this is a little bit different. Like you would have no way of knowing this thing was going to pump. I think a lot of this had to do with Gary Gensler resigning from the SEC, because you think about XRP, it had a huge pump, and it makes sense if XRP pumps that XLM would pump too. But man, look at that crazy move. It just goes to show you that these mania moves, they don't last for very long, right? Like this is like you have a few days, whereas you spend most of your time just going like sideways or down in markets, right? Like very few times are you putting in these giant candles. So it's at the 886 right now. Will Stellar Lumens put in a new all-time high? I mean, it could, it may, who knows? This is a very good sign though that it moved up in this way. Suddenly Stellar Lumens becomes one of the strongest coins in the market. So people thought, oh, we're going off, to a new high here in July of 2023, and then it just put in a double bottom and went to try the 386 again, 382 again, but just I think a lot of this had to do with the SEC flood. So sometimes there are certain events that happen, especially with financial events, that can definitely drive the price of crypto higher. So let's take a look at some assets that have yet to really run in this bull market, but maybe showing signs that their time is coming. And I don't own Chili's, but it was something I owned last cycle. Kind of in the GameFi area, right? Right, all-time high March of 2021, and look at this really, really slow bleed. But look what happened here. After going underneath the 236, we came up to the 382, only to come back down and actually put in a lower low. So I personally don't enjoy that kind of thing. But here we are back at the 236. So could we be getting close to launching off? Honestly, you'd have to look at more technicals in that, but you could see this is sort of a secondary shakeout that happened with Chili's. Now, I want to go to FOFAR to show you a pattern that looks very similar to what happened. FOFAR is such a new coin that has very little history to it. I have it on the weekly time frame here, which is not usually a time frame that I look at this asset on, but just to show you what's happened here. Put in our all-time high in May, right after the coin launched. Very, very parabolic move. Straddled the 0.5 fib quite a bit and the 618, and then came down below the 236 into this red zone. Popped above it, had a really beautiful uptrend, only to get rejected not once but twice by the 618. And guess what's happening now? Pretty good chance that this goes down to test the 236. I mean, it kind of already has in a sense. Like if we go on the daily time frame, it got pretty close to the 236 fib. You can see here with maybe a little more data since this is a newer coin. So could that have been the bottom, the lower or higher low? It could have been, right? Like there's a possibility that it was, but time will tell. It's encountering some resistance at the 382. So I'd like to see it get above the 382 to confirm that, but it might just roll back over here and touch the 236, and that would scare everybody, right? If that happened, it would scare everybody, but it wouldn't scare me. I know what happens generally with, and they come back down. Okay, it's risky, right? It is risky, but we could easily see a bounce here later in the year towards the end of the year, early January, that rockets this thing off to a new market cap in just a matter of a week or two. Now, of course, there are exceptions. There always are. I mean, this pattern I'm showing you, you won't find it in all coins, but you'll find them in many. Like this is Caspa on the weekly, and this thing just kept going up and up and up and up and up. Like only now has it kind of been leveling off a little bit. And it's really hard to come over here and say this is a shakeout. Could it be? We don't know. Um, because even getting fib levels would be challenging. You would have to go to the all-time high, which happened fairly recently, right? So like here's your all-time high in July of 2024. And you could say, okay, swing high to swing low. Arguably, this looked like a lower low in November potentially. Hard to say exactly. And so, we went down to below the 236, and then we're straddling the 618. I don't know what happens next. Does this roll over again? Possibly. Does it? I mean, without looking at any other data, there's no way to know. So, I mean, the pattern could hold. Will it hold? I just really don't know. But I don't think this chart is really like the best illustration of this principle at work. Obviously, everything's always. I mean, things are always obvious in hindsight. But this is just an example where maybe the chart looks a little bit different. I mean, if you zoom out on something like Caspa over a really long period of time, it just looks like logarithmic regression. Just sometimes around here you start to see charts actually break down, but you could also see it come up. But typically you see a little bit of a breakdown. So I'd probably throw other things on here. Maybe look at a Gaussian channel, see what's going on there. See that it did bounce at its Gaussian channel. Maybe it comes down for a retest. That's depending on what happens here at the top of the channel. It could come down for a little bit of a retest, and it could even be the 236. So maybe it will actually hold. We'll have to see. But this just goes to show no patterns are like a sure thing and hold across all assets. It's just something I've noticed with many of them. Here's another one where the pattern's holding pretty well. The one I've been talking about, Shiba Inu. So had its all-time high in November 2021. Major bottom about almost about a year and a half later in June of 2023. And where did this occur? Below the 236 fib. That's where it tends to occur. And then we rocketed off to the 618 in March, only to come back down and test the 236. Okay, and come back up. So I think you've seen enough examples. I mean, I've been doing this now for like almost 13 minutes. I think it's time to move on to price predictions. But this just gives you an idea of how easy it is to get shaken out, right, in this like downtrend here. And depending on your trading rules, you might exit a position and then re-enter on strength, which is perfectly fine. But I'm talking about people who have their positions and they're not minding maybe writing down a little bit. Again, not financial advice, maybe not even the smartest move, but just to show you that this could be a shakeout potentially. It's a macro higher low, off we go. And seeing what happened with Dogecoin, I wouldn't be surprised at all to see Shiba Inu rocket back up and get close to putting in a new all-time high soon as well. So, I don't know what's going to happen here, but this does look bullish. This does look like it wants to pop and go above the 618. So we'll have to see what happens with Shiba Inu in the coming days and weeks, but it looks bullish at the moment. So when it comes to price predictions, I like to start with Bitcoin to show you kind of how I think about price predictions for altcoins. Bitcoin, especially in its first cycle. Now, you could argue its first cycle was from creation till 2011, but I just kind of view that as the initial capitalization. There was really no bear market until the 2011 top. So we'll use that as the starting point. And so you can see Bitcoin came down below its 236 fib, came up to its 0.5, got rejected, came down to where? At 236. Even with Bitcoin, guys. And then Bitcoin kind of ranged at the 618, which is not uncommon at all for that to happen. And then blasted off to the 1.618. And this was in April of 2013, cooled off the 1.272, and then came back up in the end of the year for a spectacular finish at the 2.272 fib, somewhere between the 2.272 and the 2.414. So generally speaking, for newer projects that have a lot of momentum, I look in this region, the 2.272 to 2.414, and even sometimes the 2.618. Now, if you want to like extend these fibs out all the way to 2017, I mean, you can see Bitcoin got close to the 3.618, depending on how you define a cycle, right? So defining cycles is very arbitrary. So I'm going to go ahead and undo these fibs, and we'll focus on the next cycle. So we'll just go cycle to cycle by the agreed upon 4-year cycle that we've gotten used to, which I think is, I think it's a case of confirmation bias. I mean, Bitcoin does move in these 4-year intervals, but I like to focus on the bigger picture. Anyways, but for price prediction purposes, let's see what happened a few years later. So keep in mind that this is right after initial capitalization, and what happened in Bitcoin's second cycle. Okay, so this was the cycle following 2013. What did Bitcoin do this time around? Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. I should lock these just so that doesn't happen. Okay. So you see Bitcoin came all the way down to the just below the 0.236, peaked its head above the 236, rode down here, and then had another shakeout. Of course, this shakeout actually was a double bottom, so that is different than the pattern we've seen before, but a slightly higher low. This must have been really tricky to play at that time. And then Bitcoin consolidated a little bit at the 382, spent some time kind of, screwing around here, building out a bull flag at the 0.5, and just very gradually worked its way up. And this must have been torture to go through. This was almost like a perfect parabola. And it peaked out at just above the 2.272, between the 2.72 and the 2.414, showing you that even an asset like Bitcoin that's been through one cycle before can actually, get to those high fibs again, right? So 2.272 to the 2.414, and we would expect that, altcoins during that cycle would likely outperform it. Okay, and we can also do this with Ethereum afterwards. Maybe we should do that with Ethereum, and then maybe look at an altcoin or something like that. By studying the past history of these things, you can get an idea of what current brand new altcoins are capable of doing in a bull market. Let's go ahead and look at what happened in 2021, right? So after the 2017 bubble popped, and keep in mind, 2021 was a bit of an anomaly, a very unusual cycle, because we had, the pandemic recession, and ignore this yellow line. This is representing $100,000. I have it on there on purpose. Sorry, I gotta lock these fibs. It's a bad habit of mine. Let's go ahead and, I'm not even on the fibs. Let's go ahead and lock it. So you can see what happened. 2017 bled to below the 236, came up to the 786, and dumped down to the 236. Put in a macro higher low, and off we went to the 1.618. Okay, so this is a fairly disappointing cycle. We put in a double top at the 1.618. A double top is one of the most bearish chart formations you can have. And sure enough, we got a nasty bear market. And let's kind of look at where we're at today and make some speculation about where we might be going. Okay, so if we throw on some fibs, go ahead and do that. There's your high in November, your low right here. Just trying to get that on November 2022. Unlock these. And you can see, what have we done? Well, we came down here, finally put in this low. This was a really terrible bear market. And then started forming these bunny hills and kind of screwed around here. There really wasn't any major retest of the 236 except right here, if you want to call it that. I mean, in March of 2023, and then we just kind of never came back. It's really weird. In fact, there was like a little double top, almost reminiscent of what happened here, but that didn't end up really being a double top. It was more just consolidation between the 382 and the 0.5, and then we rocketed off in January to the 618. Okay, and then we went all the way up and put in a new all-time high, and then just started to trail around and retest the 786. So here's a place where Bitcoin actually didn't do what a lot of these coins are doing, right? So you can't assume that just because something's happened once, it has to happen again. Although you could argue right here was your test. I mean, potentially, right? So coming down to here's your bottoming and below the 236, and it seems like we always kind of come back to that, in some form or another. And so here we are, we tested the 786, held beautifully as support. This is very, very bullish. And I think our bull run is just getting started. Do I think we're going to top out at the 618? I mean, we could, right? But I actually think we're going to go higher. I think we're going to potentially make it to the 1.786 to the 2. I don't think we'll get to the 2, but I think the 1.786 is possible. And so it is getting lower. It is getting harder. Look at where the 2.272 and 2.414 are today. 450,000 to 555,000. The 3 fib is like at 3.3 million. So no chance in hell we're getting to those. But I do think we're going to have an impressive run, and getting to the 1.786 would be impressive. We're even getting, somewhere in between here. And I think that's reasonable considering that the liquidity picture looks a lot more attractive this cycle than it looked in the past. So that's just an example with Bitcoin. And we can do one. Now, during Ethereum's initial capitalization, which I kind of think this phase is, Ethereum doesn't have nearly as much history as Bitcoin does, so I can't analyze it quite as much. We can see that we did come down to the 236 fib, and very briefly, bottom there was no retest, right? I don't remember this time because I wasn't in crypto, but maybe this was the initial test, but look how quickly that was bought up. Ethereum was some pretty hot stuff, and look at it, how crazy this move was. We just kept going up. Okay, came down. Went all the way up to above the 2618. And in fact, like this cycle didn't even end until Ethereum went above the 4.236. I mean, like I don't even have a fib level higher than this. The returns on Ethereum. Oh, sorry, this is going into the wrong year. Ethereum, but still, like this is what I was looking for. The December top. Ethereum made it all the way to almost a 4.236 fib. That is insane. That is absolutely nuts. 1,635.36, right? And Ethereum at one point was down at $5.81. I mean, the returns were just insane during its first cycle. What happened in the second cycle? Okay, let's go take a look. So second cycle, let's see, this is 2017, okay. So Ethereum puts in its bottom right here. And so we came all the way down below the 236 fib, came up to the 0.5 and got rejected. And this honestly looks like it was sort of the retest of the 236, but I think the COVID scare threw things off. Like I don't think this would have happened without that, that recession, but it happened, right? And Ethereum still put in technically a higher low than here. This must have been brutal to go through. And then Ethereum blasted off from there all the way up. Sorry. I need to lock these. There's just very sensitive to movement. Made it all the way up to the 1.414, which is actually less high than Bitcoin did. So what a disappointing cycle for Ethereum that was. And so it kind of makes you wonder, what about this time? Where's Ethereum going to go? Okay, so Ethereum started out at its all-time high, November of 2021, around close to $5,000, and went all the way down to around $900 in June of 2022. Retested the lows in November, December, put in slightly higher low, and then Ethereum went to the 0.5 fib, kind of straggled around here, put in a double top, the lower low compared to here in 2020, early 2024, straddled the 618 fib, held it as support. So you don't really see that structure quite as much here. I mean, you do in July 2022, and then coming back down for a higher low in December. But like I said, there's no like where's your shakeout, where's your scare with Ethereum? You don't really see it here. It's just been kind of steady as she goes. So how high, if I were trying to predict the price for this, would I go? I mean, we only hit the 1.414 last time. We know that Bitcoin, I mean, I think Bitcoin can get to its 1.786. I do. I think it could possibly get, close to its 2 fib, but not actually get to it, right? So I think Ethereum is going to be kind of similar. I think Ethereum probably would fall out somewhere between the 1.786 and the 2, putting it around $18,000 to $26,000, which seems like a pretty reasonable target for Ethereum. But Ethereum could always surprise us and go higher, right? Everybody's fading Ethereum, but I mean, look at this. This looks like one gigantic bull flag, and arguably Bitcoin does as well. But I think Ethereum can at the very least make it to the 1.786 to the 2. So let's try to apply this concept to newer altcoins and kind of see what they might be capable of in their first cycle. And so a lot of this depends on what they've already done. Market cap, inflation factors in. So trying to do price predictions is really a fool's errand, but it's a fun thing to do. I just wouldn't take it too seriously. You want to be looking at risk metrics and things like that which I can talk about in a separate video. I've actually talked about them before. If you look on my channel in the risk management series, I think it was like part 4 or part 5. I forget. I think it was part 5. Just go through my video history, and you'll find it. But I'd be happy to talk about those again at some point. So yeah, let's go ahead and look at maybe a newer altcoin and see what prices might be possible for it. We'll maybe look at like how about like let's look at Aerodrome. Arrow is really special to me because I actually did the first video ever on it on YouTube. And I did my video right after it launched, and I think I caught one of the bottom prices. And dumb me didn't buy any of it. So, yeah. Anyways, so Aerodrome made it all the way up to $2.38, and then had a pullback, and arguably, um, put in a higher. So yeah, I mean, same thing here. We came down below the 236 fib, came up to the point 0.5, came down below the 236 fib again, but a higher low. There's always this shakeout. It just seems like with all charts, and this seems to be what, like when I was talking about FOFAR earlier, seems like it's doing something like this now. But then, like, a few weeks later, boom, we're up to the 618 and building out some really nice structure. And I think Aerodrome will be running pretty hard probably in 2025. But you come down, you come up. And so how high can Aerodrome go? I'm not as familiar with its token unlock schedule as I am with, some other coins, but that may factor in a little bit. But like, let's see where are the fibs at. So the 1.272 is at 385. I definitely think Arrow can go higher than that. 1.414 for $4.96. I mean, shoot, if Bitcoin can get up to its 1786, I think Arrow potentially could go between the 2 and 2.272, and maybe best case scenario 2.414 next year. And I actually called out this price prediction. I don't know if it was on a video or whatever, but I did think that if the bull market runs all the way to the end of 2025, I think Arrow could see some valuations between, $15 and $30. I think it's possible on a blow off top or something like that. If you don't think it could happen, I think it can. I just think it'll take longer to get there than that initial blast off, initial capitalization. So like that's an example of like how you could look at these higher fibs, and they give you sort of an idea of what might be possible, but you have to combine this with risk metrics and things like that. Truthfully, nobody can predict the top because the top is when the biggest whales are selling. Who knows exactly when they're going to pull the trigger on that? We can just look at probabilities as far as that's concerned. So hopefully that gives you an idea of how I do price predictions. It's not a perfect science. It's really an art, and there's other ways you could do it. It's very simplistic the way that I do it, but you're working in price discovery, so I have to look to fib levels and what's happened with Bitcoin, what's happened with Ethereum, and other coins that I've looked at. You could look at Solana, um, and just you have to also kind of keep in mind, like if we do look at Solana, for instance, like Solana's in its second cycle, Arrow is in its first cycle. So I think in general, it's going to be harder to move the needle as much once you've already experienced a full cycle. Like I already have Solana pulled up here, and Solana is really, really close to, it already did kind of take out, I think it took out its all-time high already, but it's right at that one fib ready to blast off into price discovery. But, and this is on Coinbase, so yeah, I don't know if it's the best chart. Yeah, but this is like your initial capitalization. But there's more history to it than this. But it doesn't matter. So the top was in November 2021. Look, we had that perfect shakeout situation I talk about. It came down. I remember when Solana was like $8. I didn't buy it. Man, I regret that. And then we hit the 382 around $31, came back down, tested the 236. If I was as good at TA back then as I am now, I would have said, you know what, I'm getting in here. But I didn't, of course. You don't want to know where I got into Solana. I mean, I made money on it, but it wasn't. Yeah, I think I got into Solana somewhere around here, and I wrote it up. I think to like around here and traded it for Matic or something like that. Ended up not being a good move. But anyways, you can see here kind of did what Bitcoin did for a little while, and it's coming back up. So how high is Solana going to go? Well, I think it definitely can get to its 1.272 fib. It's around $680. I think the 1.414 is also possible at $1,103. I even think the 1.618 is possible at $2,200. Could the 1.786 fib be hit at $4,000? You know what? It's possible. It just depends on how long the bull market goes for. Bull market ends in the first part of next year. I don't see it happening. Could Solana even go to $8,000? I don't think so. There's a little too much competition in the layer one space compared to what there used to be. But anything's possible, right? So making these price predictions is incredibly hard. Another thing you can also do is look at the slope of this. Of course, you would have to pull up more history to Solana. What I wonder which exchange. Oh, there we go. Crypto. I don't even know why I didn't even look at that. So like this is Solana's entire history. This is the chart I should have looked at to begin with. But you can kind of like draw a line, right, and say, okay, this is kind of its first uptrend, look like that. And then what you could do is start here and draw like a less steep line and extrapolate that out with fibs. Take a little bit more time to get towards the top, and you can get an idea of like where Solana might top. And you can see it's already putting me between like around $2,000 or something like that. So yeah, I mean, this is just an example of how you could use a little bit of geometry to identify maybe potential price tops. It's not, again, it's an art. It's not a perfect science or anything. I hope you enjoyed hearing about how I interpret final shakeouts of projects. And I wasn't trying to call out any projects in particular. Obviously, I talked about FOFAR because I hold FOFAR and I'm very familiar with the chart. But you can see that throughout the entire crypto simulation, there are numerous charts like that look like Pepe, Doge, and so on and so forth. Like we looked at so many of them, and you can see that the patterns do tend to play out in most of the charts, although there are some exceptions. And as far as making price predictions goes, it is very much an art form and unreliable at best. Like when people ask me to do price predictions, I just have a hard time with it because it's like I don't want to give people false hope, and I also don't want to be too conservative. But it's like you just don't know where things are going, right? So that's why you have to use multiple metrics to try to identify where you feel is a good time to sell. And I generally am not going to wait for a top to sell because the top is formed by the first, major seller or major sellers, and everybody's trying to front run everyone else. So it's just a really tough game to play. And the other thing I wanted you to notice in these analyses is that um, most of the time, as you can see, charts just chop around or go down. The times that they go up dramatically is extremely short. Sometimes it's just a few days, sometimes it's a couple weeks, but you don't have a lot of time in the grand scheme of things. So that's why I kind of look for these moves like here's a retest of the 236 or something like that, or even a retest underneath the 236 to identify potentially where a turning point could happen. Okay. As we've seen, sometimes it can take a while to really get going. It could take a few weeks, it could take a month or two, but when it does get going, it's unstoppable and we're off on the next bull leg. But like the really true asymmetric upside moves, they don't last for very long and they're really easy to miss. So be careful with price predictions because it can get you to try to get a little too greedy sometimes, and that's how people lose money in this market. One of the ways. So, yeah, thank you for joining me for Crypto Simulation Theory. I hope you like my new setup, my new microphone, background, and all that. I know that my stream quality, I have, what's interesting is I've actually plugged directly into my very fast internet. So I'm not sure why sometimes my stream quality isn't at the absolute best that it can be at. Um, if you're watching this still, can you let me know if my charts look blurry or if they look crystal clear in the comments? I, the software I'm using. I've tried everything I can, including looking at different browsers. It just doesn't seem to. There doesn't seem to be anything I can do about it at the moment. So, could be my computer. I'm really not sure. So I apologize if anything is slightly blurry. I'm doing my best to try to improve the quality of my streams as much as I possibly can before I get a new computer in here. Um, yeah, so if you enjoy the content and you like what you saw, you like my approach to the market or just the way things are here, data-driven analysis, be sure to subscribe to this channel. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, share it around, spread the joy. Comment if you do you agree with my way of doing, general price predictions? Do you think do you like that when my camera goes off like this? Talking about great quality. And that's another thing. Like with the camera that I have, there's no way I can get around that setting. So it just does that and we just deal with it. Anyways, before I got so rudely interrupted by the rainbow of colors on there, Let me know what you thought of this video. Did you have any feedback for me? Anything, right? Just let me know. I'm always open to discussion. And lastly, I would love to have you join my free Telegram group. This little banner that's been on the screen at the beginning and the end of the stream. We have a great group of people there, just over 300 members. We're really close, tight knit. We are always very welcoming of new people, and that group is entirely free. Everything in crypto simulation is going to be free for the rest of this bull run. That is a promise to you. I will not charge for a single thing. The earliest I would even start thinking of that is when this bull run is over. So after you've made all your money, not before. I want you to keep your money in the market and be able to make money. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make my money in the market and not off my subscribers. So be sure to join me in my Telegram group. It's a great group of people. Link is in the video description. Would love to have you there. Just a reminder, nothing in this video is to be taken as financial advice. This is just my opinion and reading of the charts. You should do your own research and form your own perspectives and either agree or disagree with me. I don't care either way, right? This is just my perspective. You let me know what you think, but ultimately you have to decide how to navigate these markets yourself. So I will do another video on profit taking strategies. I think it's time for a refresh on that as we head into the most major part of the bull run, which I feel like we're already kind of getting into. I think that would be a good idea. We'll also take a look at Bitcoin at some point this week. I'll do a video on that as well. Maybe checking on Ethereum, stable coins, that kind of stuff. So yeah, if you enjoy that, subscribe to this channel, hit the notification bell, and you'll be notified the next time I release a video. I also notify people right away on my crypto Twitter, which is a link to, and also my Telegram. All right, I feel like I'm rambling right now. It's probably a good time to end this video. So I'll see you again next time. Bye.